What is going on, everyone? We're back again with another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the MLB standings. Obviously, you guys know it's pretty much about 5-6 weeks to the end of the season, and there's already a lot to talk about, so let's just get right into this video. We're actually going to break this down by division this time instead of the whole wild card in a whole, because it's actually a lot of division races going on, which we haven't really seen in a long time, I feel like. So let's start with that AL East. As we know, the Yankees and Orioles once again are going to be back and forth for this division constantly. This is something that we've known for a while now. Maybe the Red Sox can get a wild card spot. They're about 2.5 games out when I'm recording this video, so maybe they can actually get in that wild card spot. And then pretty much the Rays and Blue Jays are kind of out of the postseason picture at this point. Unless they go on some crazy winning streak, it's not going to happen for them. So Yankees, Orioles definitely going to be, the one or two seed. Whoever wins that division, and the other team will be the 4th seed in the wild card. You're definitely the top teams in the league in general. So one team is going to get a bye, one team's going to get the 4th wild card slot. So gonna kind of suck for those two teams, but that's kind of how the format works. Yeah, should be an interesting race as we get down the stretch. I'm pretty sure they play a couple more times throughout this season, which will be exciting. We're going over to that AL Central now. Obviously, this division has been really interesting, I think, throughout the whole season. Cleveland has been, I think, the most surprising team, because they didn't make any upgrades really the offseason and the deadline, not really. So it's been actually really surprising, I think, for most people, and even myself, they've surprised me. But if you look at the stats and kind of look at that stadium buff that they have, I kind of see why. If you don't know what the stadium buff is, they pretty much have removed the shipment containers on the 3rd level of their stadium, and the theory is the wind is pushing balls way further out than it ever used to, because it's all open now. They didn't put the seats back up there, and apparently they're double the home runs. They're doubling the home runs they hit, which is pretty crazy. So it's actually like a stadium buff. So that's kind of what people are saying by the stats and analytics. It actually does make sense if you look at the guy's stats, if you look at the home runs that were hit this year compared to last year, and all the launch angles and all that different thing. You get to the nerd stuff, I call it, of all the stats, you can actually see it is probably pretty true, which is kind of crazy to think about. But the team in general is playing well even on the road, so it's not like they're only good at home. You know what I'm saying? They're 34 and 31 on the road right now, so still playing good baseball. So they're doing well. The Twins are 2 games out as well, so they've been looking really well this season. I know they've suffered from a couple injuries. I recently saw them play. They looked really well. They won a good baseball game versus the Rangers, so it was definitely nice to see them. They just had clutch hitting, across the board. Carlos Santana came up clutch for them when I saw them, so that was nice to see. Just really team hitting across the board with this team. Then the Royals up next. They had an easier first half of their schedule, but now their second half is definitely a lot harder than their first half, so they're 4 games out of this division, so definitely a solid team for sure. Twins and Royals are currently in wildcard spots as it is right now, so I expect both teams to make it, but it's definitely going to be a race in this division. And we know Detroit really hasn't had the best season, this year. I really thought this was going to be their year that they'd pop off, but really doesn't end up happening for them, which kind of sucks. And then the White Sox, once again, one of the worst teams of all time. They did just get eliminated from the playoffs, which was pretty funny to watch, but when you have 94 losses in August, it's not really going too well. Then moving on over to the AL West. Once again, this division has really not been that interesting. I thought it was going to be a lot more interesting. It just hasn't been good. Seattle got off to a really hot start, but the Astros came back in that June and July and absolutely took over the division, which we all thought they were going to win anyways. So they've been looking solid. They're in first place right now, have a 4-game lead over Seattle. So I do think the Astros will win this division. Obviously that slow start didn't really help them, but I think they're getting back to form now. They've looked really solid over their last couple games. Their last 10 games, they're 9-1, which is pretty good. Seattle, their offense is really bad. I don't know how else to put it. If you look at the stats of the guys' averages and all the hitting stats, it's really not good for them. So they've been struggling a lot. So Seattle's a better chance to actually win the division than make the wild card. That pretty much goes for everyone in this division, which is pretty interesting. The Rangers are not having a good season once again. They looked really bad. I'm not gonna lie. This team is fumbling. I don't know what is happening. They just have a horrible road record as well, which I think is hurting them a lot. They just haven't looked good. I know they suffered from a couple of injuries as well. But after you win the World Series, you usually tend to have a mediocre season. It kind of is what it is. You do expect them to get back to the playoffs though, but don't think it's gonna happen this season. They're way too far out. And then the Angels and Athletics. I thought both these teams have looked kind of good sometimes when they play. The A's actually have surprised me a lot this season. They're actually 30 and 30 at home in the Oakland Coliseum, which is actually insane, considering they're 23 and 40 on the road. So that is pretty impressive from the A's. I'm not going to lie, having a great home record. Obviously moving to Sacramento next season, so we'll see how their home record is over there. But the A's have looked good. They've shown a lot of promise, I think. Same with the Angels. Ben Joyce has looked good. A lot of their rookies have looked good as well. So I'm not excited for these teams' futures. I'm going to be honest. This season, they're obviously showing some promise of those players. But obviously these teams are not making the postseason, right? They're too far out. So looking at the AL picture right now, once again, if I have to give my prediction on what I think is going to happen, I think it's going to stay the same, actually. I think the 6 teams that are in the wild card right now are going to make it. You know, the Red Sox are 2.5 games out. They're the closest team to competing with any of the 6 teams that are currently in. Maybe they can get in, maybe they can't. But I really do think, you know, I really don't know who's going to win the AL East. I'll be honest. The Yankees, Orioles, the teams are just so talented. I have no idea. I do think Cleveland will win the Central, and I do think the Astros will win the West, though. The wild card, I would have either the Yankees or Baltimore as the 4th seed, the Twins and Royals. And then, I don't know, maybe the Red Sox go on a crazy win streak. They can get back up to the top, but that's going to be a fight for that last wild card spot. So pretty good divisional matchups over on the AL side. On the NL side, not so much. Let's start off with the NL East. Obviously, the Phillies have been the dominant team in this division. I mean, really ever since the start of the season, they have looked really good. They have one of the best home records in the league right now, 42 and 22 at home. Absolutely insane in Philadelphia. So they've looked like a really fun team. The Braves, once again, have had a lot of issues this season. Now, I don't think they've fallen off completely. I mean, I do know that Austin Riley got hurt earlier in the season. Acuna's obviously out for the season. They obviously brought a lot of those 2021 guys back to this team that ended up winning them the World Series. So maybe that can bring them some hope, but they are on the verge of not making the playoffs, which I did not think was going to happen at the beginning of this season. So definitely been an interesting roller coaster for Atlanta over there. You know, they're going to have to clutch up because the next team, the Mets, are only 1 game out of a wild card spot. So that's the team they're fighting right now for that position. Once again, the Mets are a team I didn't think was going to make the postseason. The ownership didn't think they were going to make the postseason either, but the players have absolutely proved them wrong, which is great to see. The Mets have been playing really well. They have great hitting, good pitching on that team, so they've looked really solid. And that team's only going to get better with the prospects they have in the system, which is going to be really cool to watch coming down the stretch if they call some of those guys up for September or next year, which is going to be exciting. And the Nationals and Marlins are really nowhere near the conversation. One of the worst teams in the NL. Obviously, we know Miami sold everyone, so we're not really surprised in that. The Nationals have shown some promise, though. They have some really good rookies over there I like a lot. So they have shown some talent over there on the National side, which is very exciting. Especially now that all those guys for Juan Soto are pretty much in the league at this point. It's actually really cool to see, you know, that kind of trade kind of develop for them and kind of see the stars they actually got back. Yeah, I expect the Nationals to be getting good over the next couple years because their rookie class has been really fun to watch. Going over to the NL Central, though, this division once again was not even a fight at all. It's still funny to think about that people did not have the Brewers winning this division at the beginning of the year. I clowned everyone for that at the beginning of the season, and I was right because the Brewers are still the best team. They got rid of one pitcher and everyone thought they were falling apart for some reason. But once again, the Brewers, I think, are the most underrated team in a postseason spot in the league right now. I don't think people are talking about this team at all. I know they struggle in the postseason, but the talent on this team is just insanely good. I mean, I have not really heard the Brewers get talked about unless they're playing like a big market team, which is actually insane because they have a chance to take the #1 seed, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But the Brewers have been playing extremely well. I love the players on this team. Even though I'm a Cubs fan, I really hope they have some postseason success this season and absolutely shock everyone. I think the Brewers will be my dark horse team in the NL because I really expect something good from that squad. Now, if we get really to the rest of the NL Central, they've all been woeful. Like, they've all shown some signs of promise. The Cubs, Cardinals, Reds, Pirates have all shown good talent. They've all shown good players, but as a whole team, they're all not it. Like, they're all bad. Like, it's actually really insane. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with these teams. I thought the Cardinals were back for a little bit, and then they just lost a ton of games, so they're not really back at all. The Cubs, once again, they didn't really make too many, upgrades, it seems like, so I'm not really surprised where they are. They're going to have a similar season to last year with a few more losses. And then the Reds and Pirates, I thought they would have figured it out by now, to be honest, especially the Reds. I thought the Reds were going to have a great season again and actually be able to compete, but that team is really weird. And the Pirates, once again, I keep saying this, they're just a few pieces away from being good, I think. And I think Paul Skeens has helped with that, obviously, in the pitching department. But once again, I think they're a few big pieces away from being a good team. So I'm kind of hoping they make a splash in the offseason because I definitely think the Pirates could be good. And moving over to the NL West, the Dodgers are still leading this division, only by a little bit though. The Padres are only 2 games back and the Arizona Diamondbacks are only 3 games back. So that is very exciting to watch in the NL West because those 3 teams are definitely postseason teams. I mean, the Dodgers currently have the 2nd seed right now. The Padres have the 4th. And the Diamondbacks have the 5th seed. So that NL West has been looking really fun to watch. The other 2 teams, not really so much. The Giants, we thought were going to be good, but with Gun-Hoo Lee getting injured, and then they traded Soler, and they had the Matt Chapman deal, which was good. They got Snell. I thought they were really going to be a good team, but the injuries and then the trades, they just weren't it. I think they're trying to recoup some of that money. I imagine Snell is going to extend that player option in the offseason. I mean, $30 million for a pitcher is just insane. So I imagine he's going to extend that option to stay with that team, but he's been a really good pitcher for them. And then the Rockies, once again, I mean, we didn't really expect anything from them, but I will say about the Rockies, I clown on this team all the time, but if you actually look at the players who are actually playing on their team, they have some really good hitting. I know you could say it's, Coors Field and everything like that, and, they're not the best, and yes, they do win more games at home, but just the stats in general just show, I mean, that they have some good talent. I mean, Brendan Doyle was really good in July. I mean, even Tovar has looked good, and he signed that big extension in the offseason. But they do have some talent over there. It's just, I just don't think they have a complete team, but they just have a couple guys that are doing it for them. Yeah, if we look at the NL picture once again on what teams are in, what teams are out, honestly, the top three look really interesting. Currently, it's the Phillies, Dodgers, Brewers in that order. But low-key, any of these teams could get the bye, which would be really interesting to see. I would love to see the Brewers in that bye, but realistically, I do think the Phillies and the Dodgers probably stay, and the Brewers get that third seed. And then the wild card, I definitely have the Padres and Diamondbacks making it at this point. I think these teams are too talented not to unless they just completely fall off. And honestly, I could see the Mets making it over the Braves. And I really do think that the Braves haven't looked good when I've seen them play. It's just really bad baseball. So I do think the Mets can make the postseason. I do think they will make the postseason as it stands right now. We're going to check back, in about a week time. We're probably going to be making these videos till the end of the season to kind of see what happens. But I really do think the Mets can make it over the Braves. I really do think that. So once again, you got about a 7-team race, I think, in the NL. The Giants, Cardinals, Cubs, 4.5 out, pretty much 4 games and a half out. So, they could make it, but once again, they got to play some really good baseball. And then over in the AL, it's about a 7-team race as well over there. The Red Sox, 2.5 out. The next team is Seattle at 5.5. It's really a 7-team race, I think, in both leagues right now, which is interesting because we had the crazy NL last year, and then a lot of teams just fell off. But yeah, that's kind of who I think is going to make it as it currently stands right now. What do you guys think? What do you guys think is going to happen over this stretch? We're going to keep doing update videos on this and talk about all the new stuff, but definitely been interesting to watch over the last couple of weeks, especially with the whole trade deadline and everything like that. But if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everyone.